This UCSD TV program is a presentation of University of California Television for educational and non-commercial use only.
Welcome to the TeacherTECH Google Earth presentation. I'm Mike Senise, and I'm one of the instructors here at TeacherTECH. And tonight, basically, we want to go into Google Earth and talk about a few of the things that you can do with Google Earth. We'll basically be building a little bit of content on your own. So that you'll know how to make some content that you can kind of take away with you and put up on the web, or put up on the web for students or whatnot. And so just to kind of get started, I wanted to talk a little bit about just introducing what Google Earth is, and kind of give a quick overview of what it does. So one of the things that you'll probably notice when you look at Google Earth is that it really gives you a lot of information. And over its kind of evolution, it's really turned into kind of I guess you could kind of say a little bit of a database, kind of a web engine and whatnot, where it's really kind of connecting you to a lot of resources, a lot of information and whatnot that's out on the web, connected through databases and whatnot in Google Earth, and it's really kind of a way to kind of geographically see what details and what information we've actually got out there that we can kind of connect you to. So first of all, I'd like to talk a little bit about where you can go to get help for Google Earth. Okay, and what's really nice is up on the Help menu in Google Earth. So up on the Help menu, there are actually some resources that it points you to on the web. So the one that pretty much encompasses a lot of different things is this user guide. And so I'm just selecting the user guide. It's going to launch my web browser. And there is a wealth of information here for somebody who wants to learn some different features about how to use Google Earth. And so there are lots and lots of resources that are available there that folks at Google have actually written that are really, really well done. Okay? So I wanted to make sure that you knew where those were, and that way you can always access those whether you're in a course or not. Okay? So now I want to kind of talk about just looking at Google Earth. And so let me start by talking about a way that we can actually search for locations in Google Earth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go up to this Fly To area. That's this area right up here in the corner. Okay? And I'm going to actually use an example of Mount St. Helens in in kind of a demonstration of the different layers and tools and stuff that we're going to be able to do. So I'm going to just quickly do a search for that. And I've already searched for it in the past, so it kind of knew that, and it came right up for me. So as you can see, that once you go ahead and put that in, you'll notice that it automatically kind of honed in on that area that I was looking for. So it's actually zoomed in on its own. That's a pretty close-up view of the Mount St. Helens crater. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to kind of show the different ways that we can navigate, look around, and kind of change our perspective on the view that we have here. So up in the corner, the right-hand corner of the screen, there are these different navigation tools. And so one of the navigation tools, this slider, which has a plus and minus on it, I'm actually going to go over there and I'm going to click on the minus sign. And what that's going to allow me to do is it's going to allow me to zoom out on Mount St. Helens. I can also grab this little slider bar right in the center, and I could very slowly pull that slider bar down in order to kind of zoom out on Mount St. Helens as well. Okay? Now let's say that, for example, I wanted to move, let's say, left or right or kind of up or down on my screen. So what I could do then is this middle icon right over here has 4 different arrows on it. And what I can do, for example, if I wanted to move this way, I'm going to click the up arrow. Down arrow does the opposite. We've got a right arrow that moves the screen what looks like to the left, but we're gaining ground on the right. Same here. But I can also actually take that and I can kind of move it around the circle. And you'll notice that as I move it, it kind of starts moving around the screen in the way in which I'm moving my arrow. Okay? The other option is this one right at the top. And that one will allow us to turn north, south, east, or west. And so as you might see up at the top, we've got a little N for north. And so I can either grab this little circle and kind of zoom it around like this, or I could click on it and it actually moves it for me. I can kind of click on these corners here and there, and it'll kind of zoom, rotate, and that sort of thing with that tool as well. Now, an additional way that you can actually move is you can actually use your mouse to do the zooming in and out. You can move it from side to side. For example, if I take my mouse and I click and hold on my left mouse button and I drag it to the right, it actually is going to pull it to the right for me. I can do the same to the left. I can do it up and down. So I can kind of move it in all different ways with that mouse button. What I can also do, and this is the case if you've got a scrolling feature on your mouse, if I scroll on my mouse, I can zoom in and out with that feature as well. That will allow you to kind of move your content around and get a better visual on that. Because oftentimes when you kind of start in, we were a little lucky that when I put in Mount St. Helens, it went right to the crater because it's got a little marker right there that it already knows about, and that's why it was able to get there. So we've got, as we're kind of honing in and navigating on our crater here, one of the neat features I really like about Google Earth is we get a 3-dimensional view of what the terrain might look like in this particular area. So what I'm going to do now is to make sure down in the bottom corner here, where the layers are, that I've actually turned on my terrain layer. So I'm going to put a little check mark. As you see, I've got my terrain layer checked. I'm going to make sure that that's on. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me a 3-dimensional look of the land for whatever I'm looking at. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to zoom in on this, and I'm going to kind of show you how we're going to see that 3-dimensional look. Now, just so you know in advance, this is going to take me moving it around a bit because I have to zoom in and kind of pull back, zoom in and pull back, so that I'm going to end up looking kind of straight on to the mountain in the end. So what I'm going to start with is I'm just going to move this up a little bit, and then I'm going to use the plus sign on my slider over here, and I'm going to zoom in on this crater. Okay? So I'm going to zoom and I'm going to move it a little bit. The reason why I'm moving it is because I know it's going to be kind of out of the realm of where I want it to be. Now what's going to happen as I zoom in is the Earth starts to tilt up at me and the view starts to flatten out. So as if I were standing on the ground looking at Mount St. Helens. So the farther I go down, the further it actually tilts. Okay? Now, one of the things that you'll notice as we start working with this is that this is essentially a live streaming database of information, which is going to kind of adjust as we go. Now, I can then use some of my other controls I can adjust my view here, and I can kind of move along. Again, I'm going to make some adjustments so that I'm not getting stuck in the land here. And then I can kind of follow the contour of the land that I see here. So as I'm looking out, I see valleys and hills and whatnot, and I'm approaching the crater as if I were kind of hovering right on top of the land. Okay? So I think that is, to me, especially if you're really trying to get people to understand land features and landforms and that sort of thing, that's a really cool thing to be able to do. So now that we've kind of taken a look at the navigation, and we're going to use that a whole lot more tonight in what we're going to be doing, I want to talk a little bit about how we might actually put some pieces together to create a little bit of content of our own. So one of the things I want to point out is when we do a search, we've got this information right up here. So we've searched for Mount St. Helens, and it's going to kind of appear in this upper box under the Fly To area. As we kind of end up adding content to what we're doing, we're going to get some content that we're going to end up putting in this Places area. And then as we mess around with the layers and kind of add and take away some of the layers, all that stuff's going to go in that area right there. So the piece of content that I want to demonstrate for you on how to make is I'm actually going to take what I have here, and we're going to add some features to it. Okay? So I've got this little, what I'm just naming a volcano demo that I've kind of put together that I want to show you how to make. And we're going to actually do that, showing how to use some various tools. And then we'll actually take some hands-on time and actually make that. So I'm just actually going to turn this on, this one that I made before. And I'm going to zoom back out to a higher level and kind of have you take a look at this from the top view. So when we did the original search, we had one item that was on here. It was just this square with kind of the plus sign in the middle that just described where Mount St. Helens was. It's kind of like a place marker. And so what I went ahead and did is I added this little pin, which has some information on it. And I also added this path for the lava flow, or volcanic material, mud, whatever kind of flow. So, so what I want to do is I want to kind of demonstrate and kind of walk through how I did that, and then we're going to take some time to build that. Okay? So, so part of what I was able to do is I used a couple of the tools that were on the toolbar. So for example, for this little push pin, and I have just some information on the push pin. We've got a link to a website where we have a picture of a before Mount St. Helens picture. So that's there. And then I added a kind of a title onto that. And then the additional thing that I was able to do is I actually created this yellow path that kind of shows you where the path of the flow of that volcanic material would have been. So now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and just basically walk through how we went ahead and did that. So once I did the initial search for Mount St. Helens, we basically have this picture of the information that I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on this Fly To search that I've already done, and I am going to actually tell it that I want to save it to My Places. Okay? Now, when I bring it into My Places, you may notice that it came in right in this area in the listing of My Places. In the My Places folder, though, I want to basically kind of create a folder where I can put all this information, kind of contain it in there, and be able to use that as we move forward. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click in this area here. I'm going to right-click on My Places, and I'm going to add a folder. Okay? And just a generic folder. Let's say I'm going to call it Volcano Demo 2, and I'm just going to click OK. So now I've created this folder right here called Volcano Demo 2, and I'm actually going to take the Mount St. Helens place that I saved, and I'm going to drag it and drop it into that folder. Okay? And so now essentially what we've done is we have a folder here, and we've actually put this place that we'd like to save in there. The second thing that I want to do is I want to put a place marker where I want that path to start. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to this little push pin up on the top toolbar here. And I am going to click on it. And I have this push pin that basically has appeared for me. Okay? So I'm just going to title that Beginning. And I'm also going to go into the Style and Color menu. And I'm going to change the color of the title to red, or the label to red. Okay? Now, at this point in time, what we can actually do in the description is we can put any text or web links or anything like that. And the web links that we put in there will actually be hot. They'll be clickable. Okay? So I've actually got some information that I saved, a blog that I put up that we'll look at in a bit that has a link to this picture. And I'm actually going to click in there. I'm going to paste in my link. And we'll put a little bit of text in here that talks about what this picture is about. And then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So now when I click on this push pin, I'll have a link, and I'll have this description that I have there that I'll be able to access in the future. So the second thing I want to take a look at is I want to talk a little bit about the different ways that we can somewhat measure things that are in the visual view of Google Earth. So up on the top toolbar, there is this thing that looks like a ruler, this tool right here. And that ruler, if I click on it, will allow me to decide whether I want to have a line or I want a path. Well, for this particular part, I want to show you how to just do measure a line so you can kind of measure some distances between 2 points. So let's say that I wanted to see from the edge of the volcano right down here, and let's say I wanted to measure all the way across. So what I would do is I would just click on it and hold my mouse and just drag it all the way across and let it go. So with the type of measurement or the type of units that I'm using miles right now. So it's basically measured 7.95 miles. Well, easily if I wanted to change what kind of measurement I wanted, if I wanted to measure it in kilometers or meters or whatever the case might be, I could easily change that, and we could see the result of whatever that particular measurement would be. Now, sometimes when you're measuring, you don't have enough screen real estate to basically finish your measurement. So what I might do then is I would turn on my mouse navigation, and this allows me to, let's say, take this, move my screen a little bit, turn mouse navigation off again, and then I could go ahead and, let's say I wanted to measure a bigger distance, I could go ahead and do that. Now, the difference between this measurement, this ruler tool, and the path that I created in the demonstration is once I have actually done this with the ruler tool, it actually doesn't save it for me. And what I really wanted was a saved path. So what I'm going to do real quick here is I'm going to click to clear it, get that measurement out of the way. And I'm actually going to go up to this path tool, which is right up on the toolbar here. And what this is going to allow me to do is it's going to allow me to create a path where I have multiple points that will actually remain with this folder that we're creating. So I'm going to make sure that I'm highlighted my Volcano Demo 2 folder, and I'm going to click on this path. Now, I could call the path, let's say I call it volcanic material or something on that order. I could pick a style that I want for my path. In my demonstration, I made it yellow, so I'll do that again. And basically, at this point, I'm not going to fill out any of this other information yet. One of the things when the path is created, we're going to have to come back to this altitude setting so that we can adjust how far above ground level the path is so that we're not burying it under mountains, essentially. So we'll draw the path, and then we'll most likely be coming back and doing it relative to ground. You know, we might have to make a little adjustment here because I see that we're in a negative space right now. So let me just pull it up a little bit. And then we'll try that and see how that works. So now what I can do is, before I actually click OK on this, I'm actually going to start drawing my path. So if I wanted the path to start somewhere up here, again, I've got this little box that I had when I was doing my measuring tool. And I'm going to go ahead, click where I want the path to start. And basically, I'm making data points. So I'm going to click once. I'm going to click where I want the next one to be. I move down a little bit, click again, and just keep clicking until I basically have my path worked out. Okay? All right. So once I've got the path all ready to go, then I'm just going to click OK. Now, what I noticed about my path down in this area is it seems to be underground. So I'm going to need to develop, or actually change, the height of the path off the ground a little bit so that it actually looks decent. So I'm just going to go over here to my Places area, click on Volcanic Material, right-click, do Get Info. And I'm going to have to adjust the altitude. OK? And let me go ahead and do that. Bring it up a little bit. Now, what I'm noticing as I bring it up is that as I move my slider, my path is actually coming out of the ground. So I've actually moved it, it said 750 or so meters. And then I'm going to click OK. OK? So now I've actually got my path. It's actually moving above ground, which is always helpful for us to see it. And then I can go through and do some navigating if I wish to do that to see how that actually would work. Okay? So we now have our path. And one of the last things I want to show you is I want to show you how to do a quick video tour. So let's say that, for example, I wanted to walk somebody down this path that I've essentially created. What I can actually do on the toolbar is right up here, there's this little video camera icon. And I can actually go up here and click on it. And it's going to give me down at the bottom of the screen, it's going to give me this little box that will allow me to basically record visuals and audio. Okay? The microphone would be for audio that you're recording. So essentially, you could do a voiceover and kind of walk somebody through this tour that you are taking. So I'm actually not going to do the voiceover part just to kind of be speedy about it. I'm just going to do the video. So I'm going to go ahead and click down here on this record button, this little round red button. And I'm going to walk through what I want people to see. So let's say that I wanted to kind of follow on this path. I can basically kind of walk somebody through. We're going to go down this path, follow this path to the end. And when I'm done recording, I'm just going to click record. Okay? And what you might have noticed is that as soon as I clicked stop, it actually zoomed back to where I was at the beginning. Now it's automatically playing this. Now, if I were doing this for somebody else to watch, that probably wouldn't be very good quality. It's kind of jerky and whatnot. So practicing it, to get the movements around. You can also move your screen around with your keyboard. So sometimes that helps a little bit as well. So then I've got this movie, basically, that I can either save, if I wanted to do that. I can play again, if we wanted to do that. I could also move this slider around while it's playing, so we can kind of see what it looks like. And then if I wanted to save this little tour, I could say, save it and call it a volcano tour, for example. And basically now, we've added that to our folder here, okay? And the nice thing about all of this is, if I were developing content that I wanted somebody else to use, I could easily go up to the top of my folder here. I can right-click on it. I can do a Save Place As. And what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to save a KMZ file that I could put up on the web. Somebody else could download, load it into Google Earth, and this stuff's all ready to go for them. So now what we'd like to do is we'd like to go ahead and talk about, I want to show you a little bit of an example of some overlays. I'm actually not going to walk you through how to make an overlay tonight because they take, in my experience, hours to make. So what I want to do is I want to show you some examples of some overlays and just really give you a feel for how those work and what that looks like. So, so here we have a picture of the United States. And let's say that I was working with a group of students and I wanted to decide if I were going to put some solar panel installations, some big utility scale ones, where would be the best place in the United States to put those? Now, if we were going to have a discussion about this with students, we're probably not going to get answers like, Vermont and places like that. We're probably going to get answers like, the Southwest United States and whatnot. But in science, we're always interested in looking at data. So what data will actually prove where we, are thinking we'd like to have our solar installation? So what I'm going to actually do is I'm actually going to turn on a couple of overlays that have been developed that will give us that information. So on the United States here, I'm going up to some things I've downloaded already. There's an overlay that's actually several files worth, where I'm going to turn on US solar potential. Okay? So this particular overlay, basically, we've taken we've got the United States here, and we are just looking at essentially a picture that someone has created that we can put on top of the map that we're using. Okay? So if we're looking at the key that comes with this overlay down below, the darker the green, the better the placement for our utility scale solar project. Also for homes and whatnot as well. Now on top of that, we might want to know, well, we're also concerned about the environment, and we want to know the environmental impact of where we might want to place these large-scale solar utility panel clusters. So what I might do is I have a little bit of information about some protected areas. Okay? So here's some information from the National Resources Defense Council and the Audubon that tells us where we might have some endangered wildlife or some preserves or some endangered habitats and whatnot. So now we've added another overlay that can help us kind of dig deeper and make some more choices. Okay? So now I'm going to turn off the solar potential and the protected areas and also show you another one. This one's on geothermal potential. Now, this one is a very, very complex one that somebody took probably weeks to make. And on these different little icons here. We've got some graphs and charts and all these sort of things that people have actually put in there that give us some information about the geothermal potential. So that's one example of some overlays that we can take a look at. I also want to show you another one that have some overlays that have to do with Hurricane Katrina. One of the things that overlays or some of the material in Google Earth, and remember we were talking earlier that the data is actually streaming in from other places. So these particular ones regarding Hurricane Katrina are actually ones where it's going out and grabbing information off the web. And so what these folks have done is they've actually put together a timeline of various movements of the tracking of the hurricane. And we've also got the green and yellow and orange are some sea surface temperatures. Now I have to just put a disclaimer here. I couldn't find sea surface temperatures from that same time period. So these are not the actual sea surface temperatures from that time period, but it was a good illustration to kind of show you the point. So what I'm going to do is just zip through this timeline real quick. And what you'll notice here and there is every time it looks like some new image is being put on top, that's actually another overlay that somebody's built with this information. And so what's happening in this overlay that's being built is we have a couple of things. We actually have a path that is the actual tracking of the hurricane. And so those are done by many, many data points that these folks put together. And then as we're looking at the different intensities, they've used a nice method of making bigger dots to show the intensity of the hurricane. And then we're looking at an overlay of the sea surface temperature. Again, not the same time frame, but really I have it there to illustrate the point. Okay? So the overlays, by having them in there, have really added a depth of knowledge and understanding that we can use to make some more decisions about whatever we might be looking at. Okay? Now, let's say that, and let me just turn these off so that we don't get too much stuff on the screen. And what I'd like to kind of look at and demonstrate a little bit about now is, let's say we're looking right at this Gulf of Mexico area, and we take a look at some of the stuff that's in the layers area. So we've got all of these particular layers right in here. So one of the neat things is that as we start to turn these layers on, these little icons start appearing on the screen everywhere. So let's say, for example, I turn on borders and labels. Okay? One of the things you may have noticed that just appeared is there's an outline around the edge of the US, and all of these outlines around the states have come up. We also have cities and towns and whatnot. The closer we get in here, for example, we've got some state names that have appeared. We've got cities in Texas that have appeared. And as I start clicking more things on, for example, places of interest, and you'll notice there was a little spinning icon there, different icons start appearing the closer we kind of get in here. So for example, let's say on Baton Rouge here, I click on a place of interest. And then it gives me some information about Baton Rouge and some web links and whatnot that I can kind of peruse. And then there's also user-generated content that is available in Google Earth as well. So I might turn on this picture service called Panoramio, where we will, as we kind of zoom in here, we'll start getting some icons appearing here and there. So these are ones that people have actually put in here. So let me go ahead and click on this one. So we've got some user-generated photos that people have uploaded that are now attached into Google Earth so that it's accessible for us. We've also got a roads layer that will put highways and that sort of thing on here. In a moment, I want to show you the 3D buildings, what those look like. But we'll go ahead and turn a couple of other things on. We can actually do some weather. So if I zoom out, we can see cloud cover. And if I zoom out far enough, we can see Doppler radar maps and cloud pictures of where the satellite images are for the different weather systems and whatnot that are around. And anything that's got a triangle next to it, we can actually expand. And then we've got all these other layers that are in there that can be selected to add different things on there.
Ours are pluses.
Yours are pluses. So you're on Windows, correct? OK, thank you. So as you kind of want to dig into this, again, earlier we had our terrain layer on, which allowed us to see the three-dimensional images of the land and that sort of thing. And then into global awareness, it gives you various different United Nations organizations and whatnot that have got things on here. Now, as you go into each of the layers, you'll notice that there's a particular icon that matches up with the icon with that particular layer. So as you turn those layers on and you look through Google Earth, you're going to see those icons coming up. And that's where that particular organization or that particular layer's information is going to come up. One of the interesting things, if I go into the oceans layer, this layer is fairly new within, I believe, probably the last year or so. And that's got all sorts of information in it as well. There's kind of one that I think is kind of unique, and that's a layer for animal tracking. So when scientists basically put on, let's say they tag with some sort of satellite tag on a fish or a mammal in the water, we can actually follow that organism, that fish, around the sea. Now, I will have to do a little bit of a disclaimer. Watching this can sometimes make you feel a little bit seasick. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on that. I'm just going to double click on it and see if it'll take us to one here. I'm going to turn off my weather because it's kind of distracting us here. So I've got fish 4009. So let me just go ahead and double click on that one. And it looks like it's a shark. OK? So once I have actually clicked on that, I have this swim with me option. And I can either swim quickly or slowly. I'd advise the slowly one if you want to watch it. It's pretty quick in and of itself. The quickly one really moves. We can look at what the depth profile, how far the fish, the shark went down underwater. Let me go ahead and click quickly. And so we can kind of see as we're moving through. It's basically an animated sequence. So we're seeing where the fish is moving. We followed the fish over like 25 minutes and watched where it basically was swimming around. Also in the oceans layer, we can explore all sorts of different various features. We've got pictures of items. We've got just all sorts of different things. Again, when you see the little icons, we'll be able to take a look at more pieces of information. So you can also, like you can do on land, you'll notice that when I went to this particular one, they've got a video that is right there loaded to be played, what looks like off of YouTube. So I could play a video right in my window if I wanted to. Also, if I wanted to go kind of dive through the ocean, I can kind of get down underneath the water and zoom in to see various places that might be worth taking a look at. So for example, let's see if we dove down in here. Then once you've kind of dived down below the surface, you can actually get that sideways view like what we did earlier in the view of Mount St. Helens. So as I was saying earlier, one of the neat three-dimensional views is when you actually can take a look at buildings. So I'm going to actually zoom in to a place. I'm going to uncheck my oceans layer real quick, uncheck my global awareness, and some of these other ones here I'm going to uncheck. And I'm actually going to go to a place in San Francisco that I know has a pretty cool 3D building. And this one is called the Palace of Fine Arts. So what I did in my search here in my fly to is I'm doing Palace of Fine Arts San Francisco. And then I'm going to hit enter or return. And we're going to basically fly there. Now, this particular one, what people have done is in Google SketchUp, which is a Google drawing tool, they've actually drawn the Palace of Fine Arts and superimposed it into Google Earth. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to turn on my 3D buildings layer. And you might notice as soon as I do that, my screen just kind of populated with a whole bunch of stuff. So what people have done is they've actually drawn a bunch of these items and put it into Google Earth. So rather than just a flat two-dimensional satellite view of these buildings, we're actually now going to get a three-dimensional view that's been hand-drawn or drawn. And, you know, pretty cool. You can actually fly through buildings, which is kind of fun. So let me just move up a little bit. Oh, there we go. So as I move forward, all of this particular information has been drawn and put into Google Earth. Now, sometimes I need to back up a little bit here. So here we have kind of a nice view here of the Palace of Fine Arts. So this is one example. If you also look at Manhattan in New York, you can actually look at a great view of that with the 3D layer on. Gives you a really cool view of what that might look like. Now, at various places around the world where we have historical sites or whatnot, people have actually done this, and this is user-generated content that they've actually put in here to basically create a more realistic view rather than just the two-dimensional satellite view that we oftentimes get when we're looking at those sorts of things. So quickly, I want to take a look at a couple of things that we haven't taken a look at yet on the toolbar are this kind of sun, this one that has a picture of a sun and a mountain on it. Basically, if I go out and click on that, what I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to be able to get a view of what it looks like for when the sun is shining or not shining on a particular place. So right now, our little time scale slider that we have up here says that we are at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And let's say that I take that slider and I slide it back to yesterday at, so let's go backwards. Maybe I want to go to sometime back before sunrise. So as I'm moving this along, we're basically now getting a night view of what it looks like in this part of the world. So we can kind of move this slider back and forth and basically follow the sunrise and sunset patterns to see what that particular area might look like at that particular time of day. That's one particular thing that we can do. And then there are these historical, by clicking on this little clock up here, we can actually see different photos of this particular area over history. And sometimes those include old photos, old maps, and such like that. So that particular tool would allow you to get those older photographs from satellite images. So we might see different satellites over time, depending on what sort of places were photographed. Some have them, some don't. And so one of the other things that I wanted to point out was we actually on the toolbar have the ability to take a look at the sky and Mars and the moon. Okay? So if I, for example, click on sky, let's say, I'm going to go away from the Earth, and I'm actually going to be taking a look at what we have out in the sky. Okay? So under the layers in the sky, I have several choices. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on our solar system. And every time we click a new layer, you might see that there's a little circular icon spinning, and that basically is loading data. So let's say, for example, that I wanted to take a view of Jupiter. So I'm going to type in Jupiter in here and hit enter or return on my keyboard. And it's going to basically fly me to Jupiter. Okay? It's pretty cool. I love this. Now, the reason why I could find Jupiter is because I actually had clicked on our solar system here, and that allowed me to search for that particular object. So we have all these different kinds of layers. Again, lots of user-generated content that's there, including historical sky maps that you can layer over and kind of see what people over the course of history have made maps of the solar system. The resolution in this is pretty incredible. It's pretty awesome. So that's an easy way to search the, just search the sky and find what you're looking for. We also have Mars, which we can flip to. And this, again, has lots and lots of different layers. You can get spacecraft imagery, you can get global maps, you can get all sorts of things. There are guided tours that you can follow regarding Mars. You can follow the rovers and the landers and whatnot. And then lastly, we have Moon. So that'll look at Earth's moon. And again, we've got all sorts of layers on this one that we can kind of dig into. And there are a lot of layers turned on this. So you've got a lot of pieces of information that you could kind of really dig into and see what's there. For the last part that we'd like to kind of show is go out on the web and talk about some places where you can get content for Google Earth. Okay, so earlier in the night, when we looked on the help menu, we can actually get directly into the user guide, as we talked about earlier, where it actually will have quite a bit of information there for you. And then also, we can get to some of the user-generated content. So Google has actually put together a gallery of content. So the particular one that I was able to click in Google Earth to get a link to the gallery, I went to Help and then went to Help Center website. And from there, I have the gallery listed right on the left-hand side here. And that will take me to quite a few different areas of the Google Earth gallery. Okay? And so in this particular thing, they've got all sorts of different categories on the side, from featured to outreach to buildings, tourism, etc. There's an educational one as well. So as you're taking a look at these, you can kind of go through these and also notice that on each of the different items, it tells you how many people have actually rated that particular listing. And like anything else, the more ratings, usually can give an indication that something is actually more validated, more user-friendly, and that sort of thing. But again, you're going to go in and kind of take a look at it and see what you can actually find with this. Now, let's say take for example this one called real-time earthquakes. Let's say that I wanted to actually get that real-time earthquakes one, and I wanted to bring it into my computer. Okay, so what I could do is I could just go to the one that I want. I can click on Open in Google Earth, and that is going to pop up whatever appropriate menu is, whether you're on a Mac or a Windows computer, or Linux for that matter. And then I can either do one of two things. I can either do an open with and choose Google Earth as the program that I'd like to open it with, or I could save the file to my computer. If I saved the file to my computer, I would just navigate to where I saved it and then be able to open it from there. I'm going to do the open with version, and let's bring that one in. So what happened when I brought that in is I actually have in temporary places, I have this folder called real-time earthquakes, and I have all of this information that's in here. Now you'll notice that each of these, you might recognize that icon because that's a path that is very similar to what we made earlier. So when we're looking at this particular version, we'll see that on the edges of the plates and whatnot, we've got some boundary information. We've got a little path there. And as we zoom in on this one in particular, we'll start to notice that there are more and more dots on the screen. Now, if we go to a place like Southern California, for example, that has more earthquakes, you'll see far, far more dots on the screen. Okay? So what this file, of course, based on the legend it's telling us is these earthquakes are based basically by the past hour. We've got some based on the past day, the past week and whatnot. And if you click on the particular dot, this particular thing will tell you the magnitude of the earthquake and where it was located. So I'm going to go back to the gallery here. And again, we've got all sorts of different categories that you can choose from. Okay? Now, people have used a lot of different Google Earth files, KMZ files, KML files, in order to represent various things. So I'm going to just flip to a blog posting I made on on Google Earth for this class. So here I've actually got some links to some other files that are out there that were really helpful in terms of providing various different types of content. So again, a link to the help and documentation. I'm going to quickly go to this Google Earth for Educators one because I'd like to show one example of what's called Google Lit Trips. It's basically a website that somebody has put together that covers different literary novels and whatnot using Google Earth to kind of see physically where those people actually went. So I'm going to just go here and I'm going to go down to one about the Grapes of Wrath. So right in the center here, I'm going to choose the Grapes of Wrath, and I'm going to be able to download the latest version of that. Here's my download, so let me go ahead and click on that. Again, it's going to ask me if I want to open it up. I'm going to uncheck my real-time earthquakes. And now I've got some information here on the Grapes of Wrath. So as I'm looking at my view of the United States here, what somebody has basically done is they've actually gone through and put place marks for the places where the Grapes of Wrath took place. And we can click on that and get various bits of information about that particular place. So as a student reading this particular novel, that would really help me to do various things. So using this sort of thing kind of embedded in an activity or in reading that particular novel could really add a lot of good content, make that a lot deeper for the student. Now, that could be done, for example, in the same way that we created our own file and saved it. We could have it up on the web for students or whatnot. What can be kind of interesting in this regard is that students could actually be creating this work themselves as you're actually walking through doing whatever scientific work or social studies or literary work or whatnot. So they could actually be going and gathering resources, and this could technically be a finished product for them to put together so that you could see what sort of learning that they've done along the way. So not only could a teacher do it, but a student could actually be involved in doing this themselves. So I just went through and on my blog page, I basically just pulled a few various different things and then linked to some bigger ones that were galleries and whatnot that you'd be able to go back and take a look at. Now, just in general, when I'm looking for different sites that I'd like to be able to use in Google Earth, there was a question earlier about what's the difference between a file that has a period KMZ at the ending or a period KML. We went ahead and looked that up, and what the difference is the KMZ is actually a zipped or a compressed version of the KML. So it takes up less space, which can be good if you're putting it on the web and having people download it. That could really help with it being a speedier download. So when I'm actually looking for these types of files on the web, what I like to do is put in the thing I'm looking for. For example, one of the overlays I saw that I showed you earlier was about solar potential or solar energy potential in particular parts of the US. So when I would go looking for something like that, I'd put in what I'd like to look for, and then I'd put Google Earth or KMZ file or KML file, something else in the search that would allow me to really kind of sort my results or kind of dig in to get the results that I'm looking for. And a lot of times it is trial and error to see actually what sort of results that you can really get. So basically at this point in time, we've pretty much covered everything that we want to cover tonight. I'd like to just say thank you very much for coming, and I hope you really enjoy Google Earth. It's hours and hours of fun for sure. So thank you.